What's up, everybody? What's up, Sota? Welcome, dude.
Hi there.
We're here. I think it's number 52. You just asked how many it were. I think 52
Yeah.
diving lives. It's crazy. It's been a while. So, yeah, welcome, everybody. Well, apparently, seeing all the reactions, people know even the first track, one of the first of you in verse, and
It's an oldie.
Pelican Dub, one of the latest, right?
Yeah,
And
Pelican Club. Yeah.
yeah. Holds online, Gorkum is online. Great you're joining, guys. We're in for a treat tonight. Look at your studio, man. This is the new one, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Freshly set up since last Saturday, actually. Yeah, just moved in and now finally managed to all set it up. It's not all working yet, so don't
Yeah.
expect a live demo, but yeah, at least we can talk about it a bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
we will, because this is like the new setup. I'm glad to have you on the show, man, because it's interesting because we met through Yauko, right? And that's,
Yeah.
well, that's like, I think maybe even 10 years or longer, like 12 years ago or something. And you guys were a crew and you came to a party where I was playing in some woods in,
Chasing the hi-hat.
yeah, chasing the hi-hat in the Amsterdamse Bos or so, I think it was, or one of the parks in Amsterdam.
That one, yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I was actually talking to my girlfriend about it over the weekend, saying, I asked her, do you remember Camiel? She said, no, not really, but I do remember Max.
Yeah, oh yeah, Max, yeah.
You were always best buddies, and then there was us as a crew, and I remember you always playing and even playing live. And
Yeah.
for me, I was just getting into
Yeah.
music production at that point. And I was like, oh man, it's so cool, Camille, and he's just like triggering live loops and
Yeah.
looks so impressive. But
It
yeah, that
was,
must have been,
yeah.
I think, 2012, 2013.
Yeah, it
So
must be something like this because back then I was playing a lot in Amsterdam and around, you know. And then I remember you guys were at this rave, and then we saw each other a few more times. But Max really started hanging out with you guys, and when you guys went to different parties together as well. But I never joined. I was
yeah,
probably like playing everywhere. But cool, man. It's so nice to have you on because you started music then, and now it's like really, you know, it's going really well. You got great things lined up, you know. And
yeah,
I just got the vinyl for Up the Stuss as I told you in the little time before. So it's nice. I'm glad it's working out for you. And so you moved to Berlin, and how did that go actually? Why? Is it because of your job or?
yeah. Primarily for a new job. So I was working in an innovation consultancy before. Really liked the job, but got a bit bored by my clients. You know, the standard kind of banking, insurances, that sort of stuff. And then I
Yeah,
was like, how cool would it be if I could combine the passion for innovation, product development with music? Stumbled across this job at Native Instruments, which is where I still work today. And then obviously the headquarters is in Berlin, and it was an opportunity to move out of Amsterdam,
yeah,
something new.
yeah.
And it all worked out. It all worked out within a couple of weeks. And then before I knew, my girlfriend and I arrived here in Berlin, which is now exactly 3 years ago. And I mean, primarily for the job, but also, you know, I have to admit, for the music, it was also definitely the right choice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Amsterdam has, of course, a fantastic scene. I don't think it's less than Berlin in terms of quality and parties, but I think I've definitely found the right people here to hang with
Yeah.
and to make music together with. For instance, Nick. So yeah, it's been a good move for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's just an inspiring city, and there's a lot of people working, you know, and it's a bigger city than Amsterdam, so there's more people basically busy on music and all different genres, and there's a lot of overlaps between clubs. I heard you played at the Golden Gate. I once
Yeah,
joined the guys from Luna City Express there on, I think a cheeky Thursday morning or Friday
of
morning. I
course.
don't know. Yeah,
Monday morning,
yeah.
Monday.
It doesn't matter which day it is, you know, but it's a very inspiring city though. And, you know, if you go to somebody, I like the Visionaire, it's great to get some
Yeah,
inspiration. CC Vos, you know, I think it's really good too. And you're making a lot of music with Nick Beringer, right? Or Beringer?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Nick. Yeah, I mean, we have a big announcement to make soon. I have to keep that quiet a bit. I can't tease too much, but we've been doing a lot of stuff in the studio together. We did an EP together last year on NCSS, which is like a sub label of Sukhumvit.
Mm-hmm.
That went really well, and then yeah, we basically started working on a really big project last year. But yeah,
Nice.
to be continued.
I
There's
will I
more.
will invite you both next time for because you share the studio also, right? You're doing the studio together or not? Or he has
No, I not really. I mean, we spend a lot of time together in either in his studio or in mine. This is a new studio that I'm basically the main tenant here is Marcel. He's a sound designer, and I'm just here for a few
Oh,
days.
okay, yeah, I thought you shared with him. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
cool though, you know. So
yeah,
fucking nice. So we got quite a lot of people joining, which is nice. Yes, Guto Caveira, it's live, so that's super nice. Aldana, you're back. I've seen you come by a few times more. Nice. We have everybody online. So yeah, join us, guys. So let's play one of the songs from your new Up the Stuss EP.
yeah,
It's also nice because when I spoke to you, I think it was June or May, when I said, "Hey, I'm planning my dive in lives.
mhm,
Would you like to join?" Yeah, maybe we can do it around the Up the Stuss release. And I've got loads coming. And this summer was also really. At some point, I stopped doing these shows in the summer because everybody was outside, you know. So it's nice to have you
nice.
now. So
Happy to move away from the screen probably for a while.
yeah, also like, you know, to have the Wednesdays free is nice because I do the courses on the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So sometimes it gets a bit crazy. Like you know, and also because it's late and I have students sometimes till like 12 o'clock. And then if you
Yeah,
stop at 12, you need till 2 for your brain to chill out. You know, because you're
yeah,
looking at
absolutely.
screens all the time. So yeah, but yeah, which one are we gonna play? I think because I saw somebody say Pelican Dub. Isn't it Pelican Club?
Pelican Club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Was it a club you've ever been to, or is it just?
To be honest, like track titles are always a thing with me. Like I think we even discussed this a few days ago. I keep a list,
Yeah.
just like a long
Oh, yeah.
list somewhere,
Yeah.
and I put in the most random shit. And whenever I finish a track, I need to think about okay, track title.
Yeah.
With this one, I don't know why, but I just like the sound of it.
Yeah,
And
Pelican Club. Well, it could be some club somewhere in Hawaii, or that's what I think of when I hear it.
yeah, great. I mean, let's go for that. If
Yeah,
that's the
let's go for it. And for the people that don't know Sota, and now you will. This is the latest release on Up the Stuss. Get the vinyl now, guys.
it's still available.
Yes, amigos. Sota, Pelican Club. What is such a tune, man. I really like the doo 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 doo. It's really nice. Such a great tune. People like it. We're gonna dive into it later. We're gonna dive into some projects, and so stay tuned. But first, I'm curious to all the stuff you have. I see the Vermona. I see Electron. I see more Electron. I see the TR8. Yeah, this really nice compressor. I also have it, the really small guy, which is nice. Yeah, it's nice on hi-hats.
Yeah.
Really nice on hi-hats. But I'm not using it at the moment. Everything is like half is there and half is still in Holland. So, But it's a nice one. And
you get it.
Sorry?
You should get it back. I can't understand how you could do without it.
Well,
Really.
my parents are gonna come, and they're gonna come by car to visit me here, and they're gonna bring the rest of my stuff. So my Nordlead's coming. I already have the Novation, and they'll. I've got one Alesis compressor, my really nice compressor, and my Electron is coming. I have the old one, the machine drum from
Yeah.
1995, I believe it is. It's super
Silver one.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Orange screen, right?
Yeah. No white. Yeah, white, red or so. I think. White, red,
Ah, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
orange. No, that's
Yeah.
like the first one they did, and it's a bit limiting, as in your patterns can only be 16 instead of 32 maximum, but you can go to 64 on the other ones, which is nice. So you can have patterns from 64, which is a bit more handy for variations in the end. The last the
Yeah.
fields and stuff. But yeah, what do you have there? And the modular one, maybe you can give us a little tour of what you have there.
Yeah. I'll get the camera actually off here. Might be easier.
There we go. Little MTV Studios
Boom.
instead of MTV Cribs. Why not?
Is this coming through? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So basically, it's the main drum machine, the analog rhythm,
yeah,
which I think is great because it's just like it has analog drum synthesis and the ability to load samples. So I basically always use a combination of it.
yeah.
Then it has a really nice distortion unit. So it's basically, it's like the beast in the drum setup here. And then on top here, the TR8 is, a bit more like the bread and butter stuff, the regular 808, 909, 606.
Yeah.
I don't always really like the sound of it. It's not the greatest thing here. It has a bit of sometimes a bit of a simple sound, but it's just great if you want a quick layer. So basically, this is the top dog, and this is kind of the helper. That's the way.
Yeah, I sold mine, but I had it next to my Electron. I would layer the hi-hats and the claps mostly on top of my hi-hats and claps that were coming from the Electron. And from the Electron are usually a bit more gritty, bit more, dirty, so to speak, which is nice. Yeah.
Just way more flexibility, but it's good to have both. And this is really for drums. This is all I need. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I mean, the analog rhythm is such a beast when it comes to variations, fills, creating interesting patterns. It's just, I love working with it.
Yeah.
And then, the other Electron unit there is the Digitone. So basically, this one over here.
Yeah.
I really like this one because it's cool. It's an FM synthesizer. So basically, like the old Yamaha DX kind of synthesis is included in this one, but I often mostly use it for the sequencing ability. So actually the units over here on the bottom, the samplers such as the Roland JV and the EMU are all connected, are sequenced by the Digitone.
Cool.
It has such a powerful sequencer. It's so crazy. It's such a tiny machine.
Yeah.
Probability, it's a polyphonic sequencer. It just has, I can basically sequence up to 4 external devices just from the Digitone.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Very powerful in the setup then, and also you can send chords and you can just program the MIDI inside of that thing and just send it to. Yeah, nice. Do you also have like random for the sequencer? Like you can just have it generate a pattern?
It doesn't do that. But the cool thing is I've got the black sequencer here, the Erica Synths black sequencer.
Oh, cool.
Wow, I can zoom. Boom, look at that.
Yeah, wow. Oh, wow, it also looks cool. It has a super nice display. Is it like space or something?
Yeah, this is basically the screensaver, as you can see. I mean,
cool.
That's one of the reasons to buy it on itself, the screensaver.
Yeah.
But no, this is cool. This is a really cool kind of grid-based sequencer, and this one has probability. So it has this magic button over here.
Yeah.
If you can see. It's really cool. If you can press magic and then gate, and you see the little rabbit.
Yeah.
And that just basically spits out a random pattern for you. So it's super nerdy, but I absolutely love it because it just, whenever I'm out of inspiration, I just press that magic button and then it just really new sequence.
Yeah, it's a
So
great starting point. Sometimes I use this like digitally a lot, like with the mono sequencer in Ableton, just to get like an idea going. You also have the Roser, the Max for Live Roser sequencer, and just these dice and randomness is super nice to just get an idea going. If you're like sort of uninspired and suddenly you press the button a few times, you're like, hey, oh, this is actually pretty cool. You got a great starting point going there. Yeah.
yeah, and it's always unique, and it's just a really quick way to get something going as well. I mean, obviously you need to tweak it quite often
Yeah.
to actually useful, but as a first kind of inspiration, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really.
Hey, and what's on the top? The Ramona stuff. I see you have two sort of Ramonas. One down there, the kick unit or so, or what is it?
Yeah, so this is basically the Vermona. I think it's called Mono Lancet. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a super simple, monophonic synthesizer. So I use it mainly for basses.
yeah,
It's super powerful. Like I always struggle to mix the sound because the bass just takes up
yeah.
all the headroom. It could blast your face off basically. So what I do is I route it directly into this little compressor here.
Yeah.
Basically to keep it in check, because otherwise it would go crazy. And then up there is just a simple 303 clone.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, yeah, nice.
Basic 303 stuff. Yeah. Then the modular, of course, which is kind of like the idea machine, I like to think of it. So whenever I use the other synths, I kind of know what I'm doing and I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If I go to the Digitone because I want an FM kind of sound, I go to the Digitone and I know what I need to look for. Same with the Vermona and the other synths, but yeah, the modular is I've started, I think 1.5 years ago, and it's really a matter of let's just throw something in, or rather patch something, plug in the cables and see what it spits back at you. And
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times I have no clue what's going on. I can sort of know what's going on, but it's always a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
But it's the exciting part about it. It's just it kind of gives the ideas to you instead of giving an idea to the synthesizer.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's the interface sort of connection that you get. Like, okay, you're controlling, and then there's stuff happening which will influence how you're controlling it, which will make the sound different. But then something happens you didn't know or you didn't count for. So it's a journey more than just knowing really like, okay, this is the goal. Interesting. Yeah. And are you planning to expand it, or you think like, okay, for now this is enough for me to play with, like what modules you have at the moment actually?
Yeah, so there's basically the sequencer here, basically the heart of the whole thing. Then there's the Platts oscillator, which is a macro oscillator, so it has basically 16 different modes.
Wow.
If there's anyone out there who'd like to start with modular, buy this one, because it's basically, you can almost use it as a standalone. It has a built-in VCA and it has a built-in filter even. So if you have a sequencer and you have a case, basically you could start out with modular by only using the Platts.
Yeah.
It's a great stepping stone to get into it.
Nice.
There's 2 filters here, the Ripples and the Polaris. This is a bit more of an extensive one. And then, yeah, this one is really cool. It's one of my favorites, the Morphogene, which is a granular sampler. So basically it doesn't produce any sound on its own. You have to feed it with sound, and then it chops it up into really tiny samples. Yeah,
granular is totally messed up, man. If you do granular, then I never know what I'm gonna get. I like this Ableton granulator, which was you had the one from Robert Henke. That's but you never know where you're getting out. You just move 2 knobs and it's totally different. It could be you get the grain size or whatever you're changing. It just messes up the sound that you don't know how to get back. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's exactly, it's the same with this thing, and that's kind of what I love about it. It just adds so much spice. So what I like to do a lot is I just like to record melodies, let's say from the Digitone. I can actually route the Digitone into this little module here that's kind of an in-out module. I take the output, feed it into the Morphogene, and then with the original melody coming from the Digitone, I can kind of add like a texture from the Morphogene, and it's always kind of in tune if you know how to keep it in tune.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is just it's like another layer created from the same sound source. So
yeah, it's great for adding more ideas on top of what you already have going. Yeah.
it's just like adding some spice to it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the rack is basically utilities on the left, not much exciting stuff, but necessary. So the maps and basically for LFOs. The Batumi is also a great LFO. VCA for amplifying and controlling the level. And then this is a breakout module that actually connects it to the Ramona unit over here.
Yeah.
So I can actually control the mono lancet with this sequencer.
Cool. Yeah. So to send it MIDI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great setup, man. That's already like a whole thing on itself. Hey, and Andres Casillas mentioned something cool. He said, I don't know if it's already been mentioned, but he put out a sample pack for free on his Bandcamp. So tell us something about that.
So indeed, I totally forgot to mention, you can get it for free, ladies and gentlemen. No. You can make with this machine here, so everything comes from the modular. I think it's, I don't know, around 50 samples, so one shots and loops actually.
Cool.
And all made with the modular. And if you go to my Bandcamp, you can get it for free, key labeled, so good to go.
Yeah, nice. That's great. Free stuff. So go to Sota's Bandcamp, guys. Super nice. And if you also want stuff, there's also a sample pack from Lessons in Live on lessonsinlive.com, but unfortunately that's not free. But there's also a lot of free preset packs, But we got to keep the show going, This is nice. This is super nice. And so in terms of workflow, because we're going to go dive into some projects, of course, you record most of this stuff through the mixer, right? I think. And the mixer goes into your sound card, or is the mixer also your sound card?
No, it indeed goes all through the mixer first, and then from the mixer just the stereo out into my sound card.
Yeah.
There's actually everything that keeps it in sync is this little box over here, the multi-clock, which is probably one of the most expensive single items in the whole rack, and it doesn't do any sound, but it's like really critical. If you want to have a hardware setup that is nicely in sync, you need one of those. It's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Everything is recorded through the Mackie, which is I'm getting rid of this one like pretty soon. I want to spend like proper money on a good mixer, because I've been doing so much mix downs lately, and there's so much ground noise coming from the Mackie.
Yeah.
Which is inherent to recording through a mixer, through an analog mixer. You can't get rid of it, but this one just has problems like crackling faders. And I was kind of thinking the other day, I have a setup that I put a lot of attention and love into, and then it all goes through this single mixer, which is like $150.
Yeah.
And it's a bit stupid.
Yeah, it is. My friend Malbetrieb, or Johannes, his name now. He also did I think he was already Johannes when we did the Dive in Live. He did actually one of the first, like Dive in Live number 2 or so. And he ditched his whole computer, so there's no computer involved. Also, he just now records onto like an old school Tascam unit, I believe, or the hard disk recorder or 4-track, whatever. And he also bought like these super old school mixers from the 80s or 90s, and have those, Those also make like a lot of noise. But
they give a lot of color,
Yeah, but they give a lot of color. So I think it's always with hardware a sort of like, how do you call it? Not a sacrifice, but I don't know how to say it. Compromise, yeah, exactly. So like, okay, I'm gonna have a bit more noise, but I'm also gonna have shitloads of characters. So I really find that interesting.
I mean, I'm thinking of like a good, like a really proper like summing mixer, or I mean, it doesn't have to be a big mixer, but it should keep up with the quality of
this,
especially with the analog gear. It's just such a shame.
Yeah, maybe some Avalon summing with like the tubes on every these Avalon's units are pretty nice. But there's so much choice actually. You can go also digital, find a digital mixer, but it might be a waste for what you're having already. So you might want to have just ask around with some nerd friends that have bigger setups and go like, I used to have this mixer. It's a shame I ditched it. If you can find that one, it's great. And then you go look and you find one. You go like, dude, I found it. And then you get a super nice.
Come home with like a huge mixing table, analog, where all the parts break all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it's pretty hard with the analog mixers. I used to have the because I had more gear in the past, like at the Ultra Nova, and of course I sold the TR8, and I had all the outputs from the Electron. My Nordlead has like 4 outputs. I used 2 stereo ones. I had the Ultra Nova, I had my base station, and then I used the MTK22 from Soundcraft.
Yeah.
and that was also my sound card. But the thing was, when the devices come in, they would go straight to Ableton, so I couldn't EQ them, so they would go separate into Ableton, which is great. But
Like
I could only EQ them if I send it back to the mixer. So you could have everything as an input, but you had to send it out in order to use the table. So it was a bit of a complex thing. I rather EQ'd it going into Ableton and then do all the processing for the rest in Ableton, but that wasn't
the
possible.
whole pre and post fader thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't have the switch. But then I was looking for these old Midas mixers.
Yeah, they're great. I wanna
The
get one of
Venice.
those.
Yeah, we used it for the Four Guys One Cave project I told you about. We had David Hulsken had like this Midas Venice table, which would be great, man. That's
Yeah.
yeah. And but there's also a lot, like I think Midas was bought by Behringer and lots of other companies they bought, and they make pretty decent mixers now. So you could even look into Behringer. You know, Nick would love it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's always a bit tricky, but apparently because they bought all these, because they bought Midas, they have the same sort of technology that you used to find in Midas. So maybe it's not a bad idea to check those out. Maybe you know.
I was looking at the Midas Venice mixers that seem. I mean, I heard that they were like built like a tank, and that also they're all full analog. And
man, my friend David he lives in Utrecht. And he had he was cleaning the cave and he had his mixer under a window somewhere, and so I had it in the house, but then it started raining and the water just dripped right into the mixer. So the next day he comes and he's fuck, and it was right under the window, and he turns the mixer around. There's like all this water coming out. It's like, oh, it's fucked. It's fucked. So he left it a few days, you know. I think he even like did a phone, like how do you call it, phone, blower, and anyway, your hair dryer. A blow dryer, and then at some point he turned it back on. Everything was fine, like nothing ever happened, you know. It's fucking crazy. So they're really good. So
that's the kind of testimonial I need. This is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Sold.
For sure.
Yeah, cool. Hey, we have some questions. Where are you from? You're from Holland, right? And you live in Berlin?
Yeah.
Somebody had a quick question. Yeah, Sergio Malone. And I'm not sure. Are we going to dive into No Such Thing today? What are we going to look at?
We're going to look at the one I picked was Serial Position.
Nice.
So I wanted to include one track from the latest EP on Up the Stuss, so that's the one that I got set up.
Yeah, that's great. So let's listen to No Such Thing then. And in the meantime, you can share your screen and we're going to get into Ableton. And Andres says it would be cool if you can get Nick Behringer for a stream. Well, if I meet Nick through David, we can see if he's up for it. If he likes to be on TV, that's of course really important. But yeah, let's see. You know, I'm open for everything. No Such Thing, people. No such thing. Great name. We're all wondering what thing.
That's
Nice.
up to you to decide.
Yeah, yeah, nice. It's free for interpretation, right? Yeah. I said, oh, when the music was playing, oh, we also have a Nick and Daniel. He said, well, that's Nick. So Nick, if you ever want to be in the show, let's have a chat. Will be nice. And Joep is asking how you got to Up the Stuss. Did you just send a demo, like, or did you know Niels already?
I didn't know Niels. It was I released on a French label Daydream end of last year,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently he heard that EP and he specifically liked one track. And then Clément, who's running the label, actually reached out and said, "Hey, Niels was asking for the music," and yeah, we got in touch. He asked me if I had other music laying around, and that's how it got started, basically.
Yeah, yeah, nice. That's yeah. You gotta get through. Um, yeah, it's either releases. I had it in the past when I did a release on the guys for Klopgeist in the north of Holland. And then I got a message from Darius Roshin like, "Hey, dude, I really like your music. Do you like to make something for my label?" And then before I knew it, that was a remix I did for Josh Butler, who I'm now releasing on his label now. And shortly after that, he asked me to do something for Viva Music. So I think it's all just start somewhere, just release some music, and it doesn't need to be the big label immediately. Would be nice, but you can start anywhere as long as there's if it's a good label that has a good promo and actually gives love to what you're doing. I think it's a start anyway, and then you'll get to Up the Stuss at some point. Joep, hope this answered your question. Let's dive into serial position.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us something about your workflow, because you obviously work with a lot of hardware. So it
Yeah.
might be really interesting to hear from you, like, hey, how do you record it? How do you process it later on? Just go ahead and share.
Yeah, so I guess with this, as with any project, it's mostly hybrid, meaning that a lot of stuff comes from the hardware behind me, but some stuff is also recorded with just synths in the box, mostly hardware though.
Yeah.
But what I do like to do, obviously, when everything comes into my project, it's all immediately audio. For instance, the kick is recorded with the analog rhythm, so it's audio when it comes into the project. But for instance, this one, the lasers in this case, I think, judging by the name, this is a while ago. As you can see, I froze the track, and it says PG8X, which I think is a soft synth. So this is actually, this would be soft synth, and this would be rather hardware. But I like to bounce everything to audio when I work with it. Mostly just to save CPU, but also for me, I don't know, it's like a psychological thing. Once it is audio, I can work with it, and once it is still MIDI, I start messing around with it 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and then I never finish music when it's all still MIDI. So.
And you don't make a sneaky save before you freeze it to audio, like, okay, make one save and then make a new save, like version 5.1, and then I'm pretty meticulous about these things. I do want to have the MIDI somewhere. I can always go back to that one save. It's so funny.
I really try to prevent it. I mean, I'll film a project after this one that still has some MIDI in it, but it's really early stage, so I didn't even get to mixing. But once I get to arrangement and proper mixing, I try to bounce everything to audio as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that out, man. I should do it. Then you can't change it. Yeah, it's really good tip.
Yeah. And then basically this is it. 20 channels, not much. I don't group a lot of stuff, as you can see. Like I do hi-hats, which is also here, but I don't really like grouping lower frequency elements, mostly because of the sound. I get everything in here, first in the clip view, and then you can see it's quite different. Actually, it's funny, like there's a lot of bass lines here that I recorded, which I think came from my JV, and this is actually the one in the end that I went for.
Yeah.
But you can see this is kind of like a snapshot of where the project once started. It still has the other bass lines, and I have no idea how they sound actually. I haven't listened to this yet.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So that one didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This one will be nice, bit more heavy.
that's when I'm pretty happy with the fact that that one didn't make it.
Yeah.
This one would still be cool, right? This one I think is a combination then.
This one's 203.
Yeah, so a more filtered one.
So you could make like a 90s kind of vibe from this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how I often work. I record like multiple different bass lines from the hardware, and I just make MIDI clips, and then I leave the project alone for a while, and when I come back to it, I like to select the ones that best fit.
Yeah.
This one, just judging by the title, is also made with a soft synth.
Yeah.
This is MIDI, and then I probably bounce it to audio. So I think this one is actually
M1
from
Core.
Yeah, and I think I got it from. I love this plugin. It's where is it? The Rave Generator. It's such an amazing thing.
Oh, it's got all these classic ones. I don't know who showed it to me. Maybe it was Joko in one of the first one we did? Alles naar de kloten. Yeah. And also the whole look, like super Thunderdome.
Yeah, right? I love it. And this is, so this is
yeah,
the M1 organ. So probably it came from there.
The Rave Generator. Dude, I think I wrote it down before. I'm going to write this one down. I think I downloaded it at some point. Generator.
It's a free one, actually. I mean, the usability is absolute shit, but it just has all the classic sounds.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, Dominator sounds, whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then basically that's it. Then I switch to this view, and I start laying out the whole track, which for me is one of the most difficult things, actually. Like recording and writing music, I'm pretty comfortable with. Mixing, I'm also really comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because I've put in a lot of time into it, but the stage in the whole process, which still is the most difficult for me, is really arrangement. I get stuck with arrangement, really easily.
And how do you tackle these things? Do you have certain tricks to get you out of your, like, how to still get through if you're stuck? Do you send it to somebody like, hey, can you help me with this? Or do you have any tips? Or how do you, if you really want to finish something, do you have a certain workflow for this?
I mean, I tried multiple things like subtractive arrangement, right? Where you just fill out the whole canvas and you take parts away and instead of building it from the ground up. I've tried an old APC lying around here, which I can trigger clips with. Yeah. Which I kind of like. I'm getting back into it. So I'm actually live kind of triggering clips and building the whole arrangement through that. Yeah. Which I find a bit more natural. It's kind of like you're jamming. It's almost a bit DJ-like, which I like. I think the biggest thing that helped me was not overthinking it too much. Like if I listen to the music that I really admire from artists that I think are doing a great job, then I sometimes think like, wow, this arrangement is so simple and there's not much build up leading to a drop. It's just there. It just happens. But is it a bad thing? Is it distracting? Not really.
Yeah, and if you consider like all the tracks from the past that we really like, you know, because if you play a classic, you know, the things about classics or older tracks, back in the day, they just had a 909, a 303, and maybe a Yamaha DX7, and they had to record everything on a stereo 2-track kind of thing, and they had to have, they only had 16 patterns. So in one way, that limitation makes you way more creative and makes you way more effective in what scenes you have, sort of, you know, and therefore going into session view and playing it from there sometimes really can get you a great arrangement, you know. Yeah,
totally, and also just, I mean, I like to work with like these tiny fills here and that sort of stuff. Yeah. For instance, this is also here in this track, like it's kind of supposed to drop here, but there's this kind of little pre-drop, which really helped me into making my arrangements more interesting. So I'll give you an example. I'll just play it from here. So you have the break here, the big break.
Nice. So it's the bass that picks it up, sort of.
exactly. Like this is the spot where you kind of expect the kick to come in, but it's not. It's only there one bar later, and it's first just some bass notes. And like this is what I'm a big fan of lately. Like whenever I feel stuck with an arrangement, or I feel that after 16 or 30 bars something should happen, but I can't really get it from introducing a new melody because I'm already using everything.
Yeah.
Then these little fills are, yeah, basically the sort of spice that make it nice.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's hard, man. Arranging is very difficult. I also struggle a lot with it, just to get it to the end without it sounding too predictable. You know, like, oh, okay, here you go. Oh, we lose four kicks, make a little fill, stop the hi hats, and then drop in again. But you know, it needs to have something compelling. I think this is a really nice way to go about it. Just skip four beats at the beginning of a measure instead of at the end, which is nice.
Yeah, and then again, try to be creative with that. Take out everything, but only let the kick play instead of
Yeah.
this whole thing, which is about taking a kick out and only having the hi-hats play,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
verse or yeah,
Yeah. Or
try different stuff.
yeah, throw some really crazy sounds in there. Hey, and yeah, I'm just gonna do some questions in between if they come in. Guto Cavera asked, do you always do more than one version of the bass to listen to what sounds better? Is that something you always do, or maybe unless you find a super good bass in the beginning? But do you usually jam more of that stuff?
I've been doing that mostly up until now, but I've also realized that the way I always work is I start laying down a kick, then bass line, I kind of work low frequency up. And what I found, it's nice to have multiple bass lines, but I also thought like for the new round of tracks that I'm going to do, I'm going to really lock in on one bass line so that you at least have the foundation which you can't change. Because the benefit of my previous approach is that you always have flexibility and you can have some options later on when you get back to the project. But the downside of it is that I can also find myself into a situation where, this bass line is nice, but with the melodies I recorded, also the other bass line would work.
Yeah.
And then I start messing around with the melodies, and it's kind of like you have to lock in a certain element in order to progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. So
Yeah, it's difficult to change your kick or your bass later on in the track, but it does make a big difference because they're so important. I'm trying to make a remix, and I'm now at version 3, so I did one earlier, but then I used the bass line of the original, and then I thought, nah, this is not working. I'll just make a version with less of their sounds and more I make my own bass. But then I didn't like the track in the end, got it almost all the way to the end, like a full day. I got pretty far. And now this week, I started making a new loop with a new bass line, and I think I've got it now, So sometimes it's a struggle, but once you're there and you have like the perfect kick and bass, then it usually can go pretty fast because then the foundation is there, Do you usually start with the low parts of the track, or depends on what you find with your synths?
yeah, mostly I do, but also like I haven't made any new music for a couple of months because I was just fully focused on mixing down my new EPs. So now I have that out of the way. I could actually start recording new music again. My stuff is set up, and one of the things that I really thought about is like, okay, just reflecting on how I wrote music and how I want to kind of change it is I kind of just want to leave the kick and bass. I don't want to touch it. I want to start with the melodies rather and see where that goes, and then later on work with the kick and the bass.
Yeah.
Just to also kind of refresh it and kind of reinvent myself a bit.
Yeah.
That's basically how I've been writing music for, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years. And it's kind of nice to take a step back, not write any new music for a while, just focus on mixing or whatever, and then just literally writing down like how am I going to experiment with new approaches.
Yeah, it's also, and it's really nice to just try new things. And I think with the hardware you have, it's really cool just to play around with the gear, and if you have something cool, just record it and see what gets added later on, or you make your clips in Session View and then fill it up to ideas. So you really work in separate stages, right? So you make the ideas, you arrange it, and at some point you go into the mix down as a separate session. I understand.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I always whenever I do, so I always have this creation or like more like a jam session where I just record all the clips.
Yeah.
Then I have a separate session for just arranging the track, selecting the clips and arranging the track, and then I do a very very basic mix down, just only EQing, just taking out all the below 150 hertz for mid elements or high elements, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure the leveling is correct of the tracks, and then I bounce it, and then I don't touch it for a while. I just have it there. I can play it. I can show it to people.
Yeah.
And then I go into a mixing session, or well, it's mostly multiple mixing sessions. But I really try to separate those because I think they require like a completely different mindset, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Just totally focusing. Okay, how can I make these elements really rock together instead of still working on the arrangement, still, just really only the mix, which is really handy. Yeah. And in terms of processing, do you do a lot because you work with hardware? So I believe you already, you compress, you have this really nice compressor, so you might compress the bass line already when it goes into the computer. Do you do anything to the bass line once it's in there? Is there any processing that you use or?
Yeah. There's always extra processing. I mean, you can see if I just browse through the tracks, I had to freeze them because of the CPU, but you can see that there's always like minimum 5 sort of plugins, sometimes even 10 on each channel.
Yeah.
So the majority of the mixing I still do in the box. I mean, the Mackie, the mixer behind me, has a really basic 3-band EQ, but when I record it, I really try to already give it a bit of push in the mids if it needs it, or a bit of low cut or whatever. But then, I still process it here, so I can, if I just unfreeze this track and solo it. Yeah, so this typical kind of 90s DX bass line. So there's just a basic, this is only for the automation, the auto filter, that is the utility probably to mono it. Yeah, everything below 160. And there's a transient master, basically taking off some of the attack.
Yeah.
So it's very clicky. And now it's less clicky.
Yeah.
I use the Pro Q on basically everything. It's my go-to EQ. It's very surgical, so I won't use it for the sound, but as you can see, I love to use the dynamic EQ a lot.
Yeah.
Just to tame like the nasty frequencies and make sure that that's all cleaned up.
Yeah, dynamic EQ is amazing for this,
Yeah, I love it. I also use the Pro MB a lot, the multi-band compressor from Fab Filter.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I never use it.
Yeah, I really like using it because instead of overall compression, you can really zoom in on a certain band.
Yeah.
And you compress it to only work there, which in this case you probably won't hear the difference via zoom because it's subtle.
It's super subtle. Yeah.
But it really helps to tame nasty frequencies and to kind of even out stuff.
I should check it out, the multi-band compressor in there, because it's also very visual. I really like the Fab Filter for the visual part of it.
Yeah, totally. They did a great stuff in visualizing, I should say. I mean, I tried playing around with the CLA 2A here, but I switched off apparently because I didn't like the sound, so I went for the Pro MD instead. And then, of course, the usual suspect, the sidechain compression to the kick.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, other than processing, I think a lot comes down to leveling. So play it together with the kick. Like, I try to spend a lot of time adjusting the faders here, making sure that the levels between right. And often that is like 50% mixing, making sure that it's good.
Yeah, volume is usually the most important element. If your volume balance is off, you can use as much multi-band compression as you want, but if it's off, it's off. So that's interesting. I think we have a question here from Jamal. Can you explain how to use the multi-band compressor in a very effective way, especially attack, release, and ratio settings? Do you use certain ratio or attack, release, or do you just play by ear every time you go for it? Is it like a really mathematical approach, or?
I mean, I would say, there's definitely an approach behind this. So here I went for a quick attack because probably I felt that the compressor needed to clamp down quite immediately. So it's only at 10%, so it's pretty immediate. Rather short release because I didn't want it to affect the entire sound, but just the first portion of it.
Just the peaks,
Peaks, and then, I mean, the nice thing is here you have the visual feedback, so you can actually read out how much of it is actually triggered, which in this case
Yeah.
very limited because like I always try to be very cautious with compression.
Yeah. Otherwise, you kill the dynamics also.
Otherwise, you kill the dynamics. And yeah, I mean the knee and the ratio is like default 4:1. Sometimes I change it if I want more compression to actually affect the sound, or I want more stuff to be affected by it. The knee control I didn't use much before. I'm only getting into it now, and it really takes time, right? It takes time to understand compression. Like
Compression is fucking horrible, man. It's
it took me, I don't know, I think literally 6 to 7 years to
yeah.
really
I would say it took me 8 years. Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, I have it in my course, of course, advanced course, and there's a masterclass during that course that's done by Nora Q, who does mixing for all kinds of artists, and I explain it and we go over it, and I think it's like any other instrument or thing. If you want to learn sound design, you have to just make a few tracks with only one synth, and just to get to really learn what you can actually do with it. And I think with the compressor as well, if you have a few, just use some on your drum bus and see what happens if you have an open release and of an open attack and a fast release, and to see how that works in compared to a closed, like a very fast attack and maybe a slower release or both halfway. And it's all about learning to how it works, what it does, and then compare it and create your own values. I think, what you like, how to sound something. And like you said, I'm always very cautious. That's because you don't want to squeeze it, but maybe somebody else really likes to fucking squeeze it and gets to their own best result. So I think it's also very personal, like how you, and that makes it so complex. Like you have compression, but you can use it in so many different ways. I usually go parallel. I don't use a lot of compression on my channels anymore. I didn't back in the day. I would just slam everything on there,
yeah. That's a great one too. I mean, I started using a lot of parallel compression in the last half year or so, which is a great tool. But for me, they have a slightly different purpose. Like if I really have problems to deal with, then I go to a compressor on the insert, and if I just want more fullness on a sound, I use that parallel compression. Basically.
I think it's also because you work with hardware, so you have recorded it and it's already like audio. And I work now mostly inside the box, so I noticed I didn't use any compression anymore because I can go back into the sound and then tweak the attack, decay, sustain, release, and to tweak the sound itself. But for you, once it's recorded, the only thing you can do to change something is the compressor in that way, in that case. So yeah. Great, we got Dan Tiago online. Hey, my friend, Dublin in the house. Eddie Herbst, must be from Germany. Eddie. Sein Freund, ja?
Ein Freund von Berlin, yeah.
I thought so. And it's his season now. Herbst, no? It's like autumn, no? In otoño, they say here in Spain. Yeah, nice. Glad you're watching, guys. It's nice. We have 25 people watching. Great. If you have any questions or just something you want to shout it in the chat. I really like it. Man, I'm happy we're going through all this. It's nice to see. And how does it work with all the tracks? You have it, but you don't use any drum compression like on all the drums, or you don't use any parallel compression in this one. Do you use return tracks actually because they're off?
Yeah, I do use return tracks. I can show you. There's quite a few in this project. I mean, it changes from time to time, but the usual suspects are, of course, room reverb. I like to use the Valhalla for that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Valhalla's nice, yeah.
I mean, the big verb, like the name suggests, a bit of a longer reverb, nothing special there. Just a standard delay, also not special. I mean, I've changed the glue compressor now for the hyper compressor, which is this free one from Per Hamar, which is great, does the job. But also this, I mean, you can see the attack is like all the way down, very release, so it's kind of really slamming the drums. I don't think I actually used it that much on the track, if not at all. Just by a quick look, I didn't even use it on this track, so it's here, but it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
In this case, there's a bit of parallel
distortion or saturation.
Distortion, from the good old decapitator.
Yeah, I love them. Love those. Yeah.
Sweeney effects. I hardly use this. I just put it in. It's still my default template. I never really use this. So it's kind of like a weird. Can I show this?
Yeah, Sweeney just stands for weird shit. It's funny that he has this. Yeah. Ah, cool. That's nice though.
But to be honest, I never use it. And And the gamma ray, yeah, this is really cool. It's an old Pharaoh trick, I think. He showed this sometime in his studio tour or Against the Clock or whatever. It's basically just a chorus preset with a very short delay, and it really works nicely on drums. So for instance, if you have a hat, kind of introduces this grittiness,
Yeah,
this stereo width.
yeah, because the feedback's all the way up also.
Yeah, but also by the looks of it, I didn't use it on this track, so
No.
there's a lot of unused
Well,
return tracks.
yeah, sometimes you change your return tracks to get a new sound.
Yeah.
Let's see. Somebody wants to see the yeah. Sorry, guys, I had the Sota thing in the way. I've now moved it. So maybe you want to go back to the big verb. I think he just wants to see. Andres is he really wants to see the decay time. I think. The big verb is pretty short. My big verb's like 13 seconds.
Yeah. Also, this changes per track. So sometimes it's at 2, sometimes it's at, like in this case, 1.2.
Yeah.
It really changes. And in most cases, I already have reverb coming from the Digitone, which is a really cool reverb built in.
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of extra reverb on top. So, but yeah, it changes.
Yeah. Nice, interesting. So yeah, this is the big verb. I love the Ableton big verb, the reverb. You know, I use it a lot. I also like the Fab Filter ones, but I always, if I need to have like the stuff that I really like, then you always resort to the Ableton stuff, which really works. Hey, also Alexandru Demeter, who actually had a really cool. He said the sort of spice that make it nice. Sota 2021. So that's your quote for this year. You know, maybe your next track is
Put that on a t-shirt. So.
Yeah, the sort of spice that makes it nice. Sota Daamen Live 2021 would be a great shirt. But Alexandru is asking to see the synth or pad work because you've recorded some quite nice sounds and stabs and whatnot. So let's see how that goes together.
Yeah, so there's the M1, basically the usual suspect.
Yeah.
They're processed quite heavily. Again, Pro and B, queuing, compression, there's also
transient designer. Yeah. We can't really hear you really well when the music is playing.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah, so quite a bit of processing there, but all stuff to kind of to clean it up. So again, the transient designer, again, multiband compressor, EQ, etc. I think then the other element, of course, is stab.
So dreamy, nice.
And I think I recorded this one with my JV, the Roland, the old Rumpler. It basically it's packed with presets of like all of the classic Roland gear.
Yeah.
I love it. And as you can see, I kind of chopped up the sample. It's kind of like fading in. I picked the best parts. And I think there's the API, the compressor on there to basically make sure to tame the dynamics, because you can see this one has quite a bit of attack, quite a bit of body in the beginning, and then it fades out, whereas this one is more like constant.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice for the variation. You know, it makes it a bit less predictable if it's always the same. And it's like, okay, there he is again. But now it's every hit slightly different.
Yeah. And then the pad, I don't know where the pad came from actually.
It's nice sound though. Nice and glassy. This would be a preset called glass pad or something. You always have these sort of like glass FM kind of pads.
And yeah, there we have the good old Rave generator, I think, doing like, yeah, exactly this kind of hit, this typically old school hit. And I think everything together.
Yeah, and Alexander Demeter is asking that M1 is just an organ preset. Yes. Also from the Rave generator, right? The M1 organ also came from the Rave generator, right?
Yeah, it did. But I mean, you can get an M1 from basically every plugin.
Yeah, true.
I think it's also in that Korg VST yeah, you can find million samples, but
Yeah.
it's also one of the most used sounds at the moment, I'd say. So
Yeah, true. It's
treat
good.
it with care.
You have one more month, I think. Then everybody's done with fucking organs, you know, because now every movie you see from people playing is like dun, 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 you know. So it's probably usually, well, in my history of watching music evolve, then this takes like 6 months, and then it's like, okay, oh, you're still using organs? No, man, that was last year. You know? Okay.
Yeah, what else? Melodic elements. Yeah, there's kind of this B part here for the break. I like to work with different synths in the middle of the track than I do with the first and the third part.
Yeah.
This is also an ARP that I recorded with either the JV or the Digitone, and it's just like super trippy,
Yeah.
kind of hands me a break thing.
And these clip fades are for the clicks, to remove the clicks, right?
Sorry, what's that?
These the fades that you see on the clips is for the to get the clicks away, right?
Yeah, to make sure that it kind of transitions into this, because it's all audio coming from the hardware. I sometimes have to make it work together. Like it's not fading as nice as I would work with MIDI.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do a bit of time stretching sometimes, or make sure that it doesn't click if it would move into that part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you get, guys. Working with hardware. It ain't how do you call it? It ain't flowers and whatever. Yeah, nice. Andres Casillas really wants to show the return track that used stock plugins. Hey, Andres, you know that you can watch it back. It will be available until the end of time on YouTube. So feel free to watch it back, my friend. Write down the time so you can go back in time. Because I also think it's nice we just move along and check it out.
Yeah, I mean those are basically the melodic elements. The rest is just drums, percussion. Effects.
And the hi-hat group. Do you do any particular? I love to use a Maag EQ on my hi-hats. I use the Saturn. Yeah. Saturn has this magic one, which I really like. The preset, the preset magic in the Saturn 2 it's like magic. It's like, just a little bit of here you got the
Which
Maag.
one?
The Saturn has one. I think it has the a preset called Magic, which is really nice. I think it's in the on top. Right. Yeah, I think it's in Color Magic. That one I really like. That one just adds feeling. It's really nice. You can even throw it in your whole drum group or even in your master, and it's just slightly. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think honestly the Saturn is one of the favorites. Really. Again, what I love about this one is that you can make it multi-band. So what I do often is I just use it on the entire frequency range. But what I really do a lot is like I split the two bands, and then I process this one heavier or less than the upper band. Sometimes I do 3 bands. I think that's really the power of the plugin.
Saturn is one of the most advanced saturations. It's like multi-band saturation, basically. So you can only saturate. You can saturate the high more than the mids or the lows, and you can use different saturation for each band, I believe, also, right? So you can do more tube distortion in the top and more.
Exactly. I could choose tube here, and I could go for tape.
Yeah, anybody wants to get more into this Pro Q, if you have FabFilter, check out the fabfilter.nl or .com. You have the videos there, and they do a tutorial on all of their plugins. And if you watch the Saturn one, it will tell you all about these, like the gentle, all the ones that are subtle. You can pretty much open the drive all the way without being too radical. If you want to go a bit more deeper, you can use some of the other presets, but all the subtle ones are just the ones that open up. So if you watch those videos on the FabFilter website, it's super great to learn those plugins. I'm really a big advocate, not only because they offer 50% discount if you follow a course with me, but also because they're Dutch. And they just make amazing videos, not only about their plugins, but also about audio processing in general, like oversampling or how to EQ the best. I've learned so much from just watching the videos on the FabFilter side. So big up to FabFilter, guys. Round of applause for FabFilter. Hey,
is it the tutorials by the Dan Worrell guy, right?
This guy with the voice. Yeah.
Yes. Also, he has the right voice for it.
It's
It's
dude, and it's some are really like when they do the oversampling one or like the bitrate one. I was really like I really had to watch it a few times in order to when it's so like dry
yeah.
mathematics sometimes that you're like whoa what the fuck am I doing? But I changed all my EQs to oversampling because their AB sounded so much better. I was like wow I need to change all my EQs. Also Ableton EQs you can put into oversampling. But
Yeah.
yeah
I also had a recent one about loudness, just the topic of loudness, which is
yeah
also
yeah.
love.
Yeah, they do on everything. Yeah, the loudness is also very interesting and why, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Hey, Andres came up with a really good point. He said, yeah, I think the Sota thing was blocking. So maybe we can go one more time through the through the return tracks anyway. It's all live, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you get during a live stream. So maybe you want to take out the just go one by one and so they can see. Oh yeah, this was the Valhalla. I think he just wanted the Ableton presets one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like before I started using the Valhalla one, actually it's still here, as you can see. I always
Yeah,
use the wooden room preset with a very short decay time.
yeah. It's more your drum verb.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
meant for drum reverberation, but
yeah,
like again here, like play around with if you find the one
exactly.
that you think sounds best. There's not really
Yeah,
a rule as long as the decay time is not too long because it's a
yeah,
room reverb. Other than that, like do whatever
yeah, yeah.
like.
And especially Andres, don't worry, you're not being annoying. I understand you want to see the stuff, but get a starting point. Like this wooden room could be a starting point. If you see what other presets of reverbs do and you see, oh, hey, it's a drum reverb and it's usually like around 400, 500, 600 milliseconds, then, oh, maybe a drum room or like a drum reverb should usually be very short because you don't want it to be, yeah, unless you make super big beats or something, but usually you want to have it a bit tight, right? Smaller size, smaller decay time. I sometimes even make my drum verb very mono. Do you ever do that to make the reverb on your drums a bit more mono?
No, it's a good one actually. I mean the cool thing in this studio is I actually have a monitor controller here. I have you can't see this, but I have two sets of monitors, and I actually have a mono control on the yeah, right in front of me. So what I do
Interface, yeah.
often is I just make sure that I switch back between stereo and mono just to make sure that nothing loses too much energy if I switch to mono.
Yeah.
And what I really like to use a lot is this. It's also a freebie by I think Isotope is the imager. I can best show it here on one of these tracks actually.
Yeah, the isotope. I got the whole Elements bundle, man. It's great.
Let's do it here.
Oh, this
So,
is this free one.
yeah, I think so. This is basically like an imager, like the name suggests. And you can see this is not the best example because it doesn't have much stereo. If I now completely mount it, you can see that it's centered.
Yeah.
If I take it off. And again, this is a bass perfect example, but I have everything frozen.
Yeah.
But I like to use this a lot on channels where I feel there's maybe a bit too much stereo image or phasing.
Yeah.
And then I get the image of, okay, is this problematic or can I just move on?
Yeah, and if you make it mono, you have a lot more space in the mix essentially and start, because what I hear a lot and what I did myself as well, I was making everything super big and then I ended up with these really like shouting tracks, like it doesn't feel nicely contained and tight, so it's really like keeping not over process everything, I think,
Yeah.
And what about you had the big verb, we had the delay,
the big verb, which is not that big in this case.
Yeah, exactly. It's this is medium big. It's like
the
McDonald's.
Delay is the most standard thing you can get straight from Ableton.
Yeah, I love this one. I usually just throw it. Also the one from Echo, I just use it on the buses, which is really nice.
Yeah, the Echo is great too.
Yeah.
Bit more.
Then the New York compression.
Yeah, the parallel compression, which again is also just the blue compressor from Ableton in this case.
Yeah.
The saturator.
With the decapitator.
I used to use the saturator from Ableton, the stock plugin before, but then switched to the decapitator. But also the saturator does a great job. I mean, you don't need the decapitator per se. I just think it sounds nicer.
Yeah, and then the Sweely effects one. I think he really wanted to see that one. So, Andres, take a screenshot, use the crazy returns. I think, I also have one with like, I have a vocoder, I have a delay, maybe a grain delay, and then a frequency shifter. And I made some racks with it, and I just can sense some stuff and play with it. And sometimes you get some really freak result and just sample that and put that back into your track, which is really interesting.
Yeah, where you just mess around with the feedback.
Yeah, and see what you get. You can even route I did a tutorial on this. Like you can even route your effect. You can route that Sweeney return back into like the big verb and route the big verb back into the delay, back into the Sweeney verb effects. And then you get like a super crazy feedback loop. You have to be a bit careful with it, but you can get super interesting sounds. And if you record those into a new audio track, that's super nice,
Yeah, and again, this is just from a Sweeney tutorial that I watched, I don't know, 2 years ago. But again, this is just a multi-effects chain, right? So you could do this, and you could change the delay time to slightly longer and change the spray and the frequency, and you will have a completely different sound. So this is the cool thing about building a multi-effects plugin or send.
Yeah, I call it crazy chains.
Yeah, whatever. This is the matter of trial and error and experimentation.
Yeah, this could be something in a break where you start freaking out with like the you send something to delay in the break. You send something to this crazy chain. You start messing around with it. So in the break, it suddenly starts to behave all weird, and then when the drop comes, you just close the send and it's back to normal. I really like this. These could be really smart little moves to make your music just a bit interesting, a bit more variation. Yeah.
You could also even duplicate this channel and make a variation of it, and then you have two, and you can use two in your tracks.
Super nice. Jamal, he's asking, do you also use modular as hardware? Jamal, you really have to watch it back. We went over all the hardware units. He even gave tips on what to get first if you want to start out with the hardware or with the modular. So it's nice to go back. Like for everybody, these recordings will be online on youtube.com/lessonsinlive, like all the other, I think 52 editions were, so check it out. There's also some tutorials by me, which I make like in 5 or 10 minutes short videos with all kinds of tricks in there. So check it out. Subscribe to the channel. It will help me enormously if you subscribe and share and like the videos and whatnot for the algorithm, Let's listen to the full version of Serial Position, mastered and well on Up the Stuss. I bought the vinyl this week. It's still there, which is nice, and it did pretty good. Do you also have some other news? I don't know if you can already mention that, but let's see after Serial Position if we can mention that. So here we go, Serial Position, guys. Yes. Nice. What a nice tune. Cool.
Thank
I
you.
really like the do 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 do. It's nice and like hypnotizing. It makes you like a bit loopy, which is good.
Yeah, I think it's a polyrhythm, so it's playing like 5/4 instead of 4/4, so
Yeah.
it's circulating.
And you do that with the sequencer, the black sequencer,
I think this one was triggered from the
the
digitone
digitone.
probably because
Yeah.
I got it from the one of the samplers there, but
Yeah.
therefore you can just set the pattern length instead of 16 or 32, you just
Yeah.
set it to 5 or even 3 or 9, like an
Yeah.
off beat kind of.
Yeah, I use it. I use it a lot as well. It's nice. It is also like to have these polymeters going into your music. It's
Yeah.
really nice. Lots of like sequencer you can do that with. I actually again made a tutorial about this somewhere on the YouTube. I don't know. I also made like 50 tutorials by now. I think it's 44 or something. It's nice. Lots of content by now. Let's see. Yeah, somebody asked you, Guto asked you how do you start building a melody? Is that often with like a sequencer, or how does that process go? Because do you play keys maybe or so or not?
I don't like, to be honest, I haven't touched a keyboard in a long time, and um, I really like using these special kind of sequencers. That's what I like about the Digitone or about the Erica Synth Black sequencer, is they offer so much interesting features, right? Probability, suggestions, variations, pattern length, like all of the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I've learned to write music with sequencers, which for me is just the nicest workflow. What I usually try to do is whenever I get stuck on writing a melody or I don't feel inspired, I try to not write one melody with one sound, but rather have 3 synths where the first synth is just playing 3 notes. Then I move on to the second synth. There I program a few notes in between, and then with the third synth, I kind of do the same. So you get a melody from 3 synths combined, which always makes it really interesting instead of looking at a screen trying to write one chord progression or one melody.
Yeah.
Which for me is always doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's more like a call and response kind of thing, which you're creating, like a question and answer, like do 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 boom boom boom. Everything is like adding to each other. It's like more of a dialogue between the sounds, which always works really good in electronic music, I think. And yeah, nice. Yeah, that's a great way, starting building a melody with 2 synths or 3 synths, and not have one synth play a full pattern, but have one full pattern, but divide the notes over 3 synths, so they're actually sort of like each doing their own little reply to the question.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here, David?
Yeah, this is one of the newer tracks that I made a couple of months ago, and I wanted to show this one because this is mostly made in the box. So basically, I think everything from here until here is all still MIDI. So I can actually show you how this would work, and then some melodic parts, as you can see, these ones are mostly recorded with the JV, the Roland JV that I talked about earlier. So other than this stuff here, the rest is all still MIDI, which I thought might be interesting since we're talking about Ableton specifically.
Yeah, live,
Exactly. And yeah, I mean the track was basically also more up tempo, houseier, not as minimalistic. I can just maybe play you a section.
Yeah, please do. nice. It's really nice.
So yeah, basically this track is only arranged, so there's no mixing going on whatsoever. But as I said earlier, what I do when I want to bounce it is I just quickly make sure that I do basic EQing, and then I make a bounce. But this project still has to be completely.
Yeah. What do you put on your master in that case? Like a quick little limiter or whatnot, just to make it sound loud, or yeah.
This is very basic, so I always have an EQ on the master bus, but mainly also for seeing the spectrum analyzer.
Yeah.
So seeing, for some reason, I really like the frequency analyzer that's built into the Pro Q.
Yeah. So
I
no.
kind of,
Yeah.
I kind of learned how to use it, which for me is really, really critical on the master bus. And then in this case, just a limiter, which doesn't do very much other than, of course, limiting.
And that isotope unit, the tonal balance.
The tonal balance is just a really nice tool for having a reference to what the frequency density and the frequency levels are for the low mid, the high mid, and the mid band. I think this is a great plugin. I can recommend it. Like, I never use these presets, but I always, if you go here, here you can actually create target from another audio file. So this is a really helpful mixing tool.
That's nice. You can just take a track you really, really like and sort of like see that balance between low, mid, and high, and use that as a reference. Dude, I never knew this. I have the Elements bundle. I should check it out. This is great. Tonal balance.
Yeah, to be honest, was a bit of a game changer for me. I mean, Alex Kidd recommended it to me once.
Yeah.
And I think what I really like about it is the simplicity, right? You just have 4 bands to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can quickly show you what it does, if I just play back a bit of audio, let's say, again, I never use these presets, but let's say I'm making, I don't know, whatever, bass heavy music, which
or
seems
country, would really interesting too. David Granada, country, and then you in the guitar, we all line dance, that would be funny.
or let's
or
select
reggae.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you're way off. Interesting. So the white lines show you where you are.
Exactly. And the bands here show me like what's the lower limit and what's the upper limit of what most EDM songs sounds like. Again, I would never use this. What I always do is I make sure I have a pre-master file from an artist that I like or that I know.
Yeah.
And then I actually load it into the plugin, and it analyzes it, and then it tells me like, hey, you're this far off with regards to the limits. Like, the low mids for me usually the frequency band where I have a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
And just by quickly referencing this, I know that if I solo it,
you're like, okay, maybe it's a bit too much. Yeah.
So that for me is always a super helpful.
And the fine, it's like, I want to see the fine. The fine is that fine is make it. Oh, ooh. Oh, nice. I kind of like this view also.
Yeah, it's a bit more refined, you could say. So it tells me like, especially in the 800 hertz, I need to either level up a few things, or I need to compress stuff more, or it needs to get more saturation, or I need to bring my bass down and my higher mids down so that the other frequencies get into play with.
Interesting. This is a really interesting tool. I wrote it down. I'm gonna download the Rave generator, and I'm gonna use tonal balance. I have to make some mix down soon, so that's nice. I can use this for my new mix downs, which is great.
Yeah, this one is a game changer. Really.
Yeah, super nice. Thanks for sharing this. This is a great tip. Alexandru Demeter, it might be a newbie question, but why pre-master? Well, like first, give it a quick master so you can play it in the club, send it to your friends, and see what the feedbacks are, and then later on you finish it off. Right, Dom? Sota.
Yeah. I mean, like I usually do like a DIY master to play it in a club, but for me that's mostly just putting on a limiter, and the pre-master is really like the stage before mastering.
Yeah.
I actually take off the limiter, make sure that everything is nice and leveled, and then the mastering engineer has
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, there's always like the DIY master and the pre-master.
Oh.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a definition
He
thing.
says meant as in why use pre-master file for the tonal balance control.
Ah, right. So, I mean, I would be, I don't know the theory, but this is my theory, but of course I can load like mastered files into this, but then I'm kind of comparing a non-mastered mix down of myself with mastered files, which for me, I don't know, you could try it. I never did it, but I managed to get my hands on a few good pre-masters from friends, and I just like to use them because I think um, they should also peak at -6, and the mix down that I'm making here should also peak at
Yeah.
-6. So kind
Yeah.
of comparing the same level.
Yeah, true. But yours is going through a L2 stereo, so you could think yours is sort of like limited in a way. It depends on how much you drive it
If,
into this L2.
if I mix, I
Oh, you
switch
have
it
it
off.
off. Okay, like
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
this is just turned on for
Yeah.
the stream. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I guess you also have to find a bit your way. Maybe if somebody doesn't have access to like pre-masters of friends that done well, or so whatever, that you can still use mastered ones as well, and just try to
Yeah.
see. I think if you can see already the tonal balance, because what the mastering engineer is not going to change your whole tonal balance. That's well,
No.
if it's wrong, they will correct it, but they can only do it so much. So I think the initial tonal balance from the pre-master will always ring through into the master, and if you don't have access to these pre-masters, then I think you can also try it with separate different good tracks you like, and just listen, and maybe the things that the tonal balance show you make you already listen better and go like, hey, if I turn down all the lower mids a bit more, it's actually really nice. You can solo the lower mids to see which instruments are in there, and just lower the volumes of these instruments if you're too loud, and then check how the mix is sounding then, and you learn as you go. I think that everything, especially with learning anything in life, basically, it's all about exploring and experimenting. This is basically how kids learn how the world works. They throw shit on the floor just to see how height and gravity works, and you just throw shit in your tonal balance and, try to move some faders and see what happens. And based on what happens, you make your conclusions to whatever you're going to do in the future, right? So I think it's all about practicing and figuring it out and see what works. And, it's such a
Yeah. I
journey,
mean,
man.
definitely try to throw in masters. I've never done it for me because I always had the access to the pre-masters. But yeah, no idea if that works.
I'll try it out, man. I also don't know anybody to ask pre-master, so I'll just fucking do it myself. I'll figure it out. I'll use my own pre-masters.
Another cool thing is actually you can match it. You can reference it from a single audio file,
Yeah.
but you can also create your own reference from a whole folder.
Holy.
So I don't know up to how many. I have no idea, but you could even pick 10 of your favorite tracks.
Oh wow. So they will like take like 10
It will take
tracks
the average. It will take
in
the average and then
of
this
all
one.
the tracks. That's interesting. That's pretty cool because you can take like a bunch of tracks, think these are really good and sort of like are the same. I'll put like 10 in a folder, get the average, and then well, if it helps, it helps. If it makes you hear something like, hey, I've always, and maybe it realizes that you've always have your low mids too loud, maybe because of your speakers or your room or your headphone. Then you go like, hey, now I know that I shouldn't put that too loud. Interesting.
Yeah, I
Interesting
mean, you
stuff.
should never. Of course, you should take this as a helper, as an assistive tool.
Yeah.
But you should never only look at it and also trust your ears. I mean, I was playing 2 weeks ago on a really big sound system again since a long time, and I was so surprised by how different the tracks sounded there. Like
Yeah.
the tracks that I always thought would work great in a room like that kind of just disappeared, and there
Yeah.
were tracks that I didn't have high expectations of, and they sounded so full and punchy and nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it's super crazy. Yeah, in a big room, you always want to play a bit faster as well, right? Because the bigger the room, the slower the music seems to be, which is interesting.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. This is great, man. And so this is like something that you just made. You've been working with it. You've used a lot of stuff from Ableton itself. So you were like, can't be bothered today with the electrons. They had a day off. Do you have like your own kick rack, like the Beat Shake UKG flavor one? Is it just a bunch of? Is it, or is it just how do you go about?
Yeah, no, this is just a rack that I had because I once bought this pack from Alex Kit, where you get the probabilistic sequencer, or you get a Max for Life device that he created. That's
Yeah.
kind of like a drum pattern generator, and then this is of course the sound content that comes with it. And I think I made this track on my couch really with the laptop on my lap, and I was too
Nice.
lazy to load another 909 kick drum, and I had this, threw it on, and then this is the. And I like this kick drum because it doesn't have much low frequency.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
very,
very
yeah,
thumpy mid focused kick. You can also see it here.
yeah. That's interesting.
So it has a very high peak of like 117 hertz, which for a kick is not ideal, but I really
Yeah,
like the character. Then I layered it with a sub kick. And again, this has to be properly mixed, but this is just
yeah,
take off a lot of attack. I'll probably take off even more attack
yeah,
once I start mixing it. But you can see here,
yeah. This one has the lower vibes.
that
Yeah.
real sub peak like 60. It's still not a really full sub. It's kind of limited, but if you put them together,
There you
it
go.
sounds
Yeah,
really thin. And by just adding like a slight touch of sub, you get a bit
yeah.
more of a full kick.
Interesting.
And probably when I mix them down, I will bust these, compress them together, repeat them
Yeah,
together, etc. Yeah, the bass line is. I don't use many VSTs, but the ones that I still love to use is, of course,
yeah.
the
It's
good old trusted sub boom
you.
bass.
You just have the whole Dutch channel there. You got the Fab filter. You got the Subboom bass
Exactly.
from Rob Papen. Gotta love the Dutchies
Yeah,
from making these plugins though.
yeah.
Sorry
I love
guys
it.
for being so Dutch, but I'm just
Patriotic. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, it's still the V1 actually. I think by now they actually have the V2, but
yeah.
I know I started making music with it years ago. It's pretty straightforward. I know my way around it. I use this SH1 preset a lot, which is basically just the SH101 kind of emulation, with
Yeah, yeah, man. I love that
always.
one. Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple, but it just always sounds good.
Yeah, this bass line is nice, dude. This the whole pattern. Du-dum, du-dum, du-dum. Yeah.
Quite simple. And then I think what I actually did with this one, which is kind of like a mid layer, which is either the same MIDI pattern or just a slight variation. I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you can see, I think I just copied the
MIDI.
bass pattern onto
Yeah.
this channel and just took out some of the notes,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially the ones on the 2 and the 4, to not make it clash, to give it a bit of room, transpose the whole thing up.
Yeah. Super nice. Yeah.
And then if you move on to the track, when the filter starts opening up,
So nice.
this one is actually, I think, one of the most used plugins on all my projects recently. I absolutely love this thing.
Yeah. Echo
I
Boy
bought
Junior.
Echo Boy because I wanted a multi-tap delay. Then I got this one for free, and I was like, "Ah, cool!" And I opened it up, and I've been using it ever since. It's
Yeah.
just, it sounds incredible. It has these really cool modes, and yeah, I think if I play the sound without and with,
Yeah, it's amazing. Huh? Yeah, just
it's this.
all the Sound Toys plugins with all their presets are already amazing. Then I have this effects rack. I bought the full bundle earlier this year because I used to have them like a bunch of years ago, but I didn't have the original versions and I stopped using crack. So at some point I decided to buy them this year, and it's like one of the best purchases this year. I also did Arturia full pack. If you buy
Yeah.
Arturia and Sound Toys, you're ready. You got all the old synths. You got all these great plugins like the reverb from the Sound Toys is amazing. The Pen Man is great. They have such nice effects. The Filter Freak is amazing. So I think these two packs you're ready to go.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, like you say, it would be enough to get into some solid production
Yeah.
with those. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If you can't do it with that, then
Yeah.
yeah. But that's it. People keep buying loads of shit. And that's what I like when you work with hardware mostly, is that you work only. We were talking about it this last Sunday when we were prepping, like Maya Needham, that she just took a break and she just tried to figure out. She was in the middle of her room, surrounded by all her synths and her pedals, to see which combinations would work on what and what if she likes about it. And I think in the realm of productions and all these plugins, sometimes you get a bit. There's so much options that you don't have a steady workflow, so your sound will always be way different. And yeah, what these hardware people have, they have a certain setup which works for them, and because they've looked into what works in a certain way. And it's the same with you building your rack there behind you. That's the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, and I keep throwing stuff out and swapping gear, and then once I get tired of something, I either take it out of the rack for a while and then have it sit in the box for a while and then
Yeah.
get it when it feels the time. So
Do you have
yeah,
any? Do you have any pedals also? Do you use any pedals to put your drums through or something?
yeah. The one that I have at the moment is this one, the Eventide,
Oh wow, yeah,
the time factor, which is also I use it more almost like a sound design tool, but I absolutely love that thing. I have
yeah,
it MIDI clocked, so it's always like in sync with the rest of my gear. And yeah, like I said, I use it more like a sound design tool almost, especially if you start playing around with the feedback.
yeah.
It has these incredible, it has 10 different modes, from, I don't know, bandpass to reverse delays. It's crazy. Like you can make anything sound cool with it.
Yeah, and super big. Yeah, yeah. I remember we had the
Yeah,
Strymon pedal in the studio in Nachtlab with the Uno through it. We used that for the last release we did on Origins, and it's so nice. It sounds so big. It's I don't want to say it's better than digital. You can't reach the same effect with digital, but it's just nice to use this pedal, and I don't know. It just feels nice. Yeah,
yeah.
cool. So yeah, it's like 9:41. People, we're still online with quite a few people. 23. Thank you already for staying with us for this long. If you have any questions, rock them now, because we're gonna go towards the end in a bit. So feel free to ask some questions. It's really nice to see this project, like, has less hardware. What are the hardware elements in this one? To see how you combine it, sort of.
So yeah, there's the M1. I mean, I call it an M1, but it's just an organ. But I know that I recorded it from the JV
Oh
again.
yeah, yeah. Ah yeah. Slap delay from the echo. I was waiting for. I was like ready for it.
This one
Yeah.
is this is actually not from my hardware. This is from this free Kawaii emulation. This one.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a free synth. It's
Oh.
yeah, it's like a reproduction of the old Kawaii K1 unit.
Yeah. K1V.
K1V, yeah. And I use this one for creating the chords, which is just a very simple static chord, but I really like the sound of it.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh wow. Yeah, this is great. The Tecturon. Oh, D60 group.
Yeah, this is also one that I bought recently as a multi-tap delay. Also highly recommended. Can turn any boring one shot or any boring melody
Yeah.
in really interesting.
Den Haas he's got everything from D16 group. I'm a big fan as well. I don't have them all. I need to actually man, I keep buying shit. But anyway, these are really nice. I know Den Haas really has. I think he showed this one as well. And you can also, you can, on the left you have all these sections where you can actually per tap you can set whatever the cutoff is doing, whatever the, so you can really go deep in creating your own. It's a bit like tantra also in a way, but then slightly just working with the delay, which is really nice. Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, I love to use that one. And then I think the other thing, yeah, I bought this expansion card for my JV because it has a lot of cool factory presets, more of like the classic synths, but then it also has you can find these really old school, they're like 25 years old, expansion cards, and this is like a special effects expansion card, and you can pull some really crazy stuff from it. I think this is where I got this from. More like an effect.
Yeah, super metalo. What's that? Say metalo. Really cool.
Really like a layer. It doesn't do much on its own, but if you combine it with the rest, it just adds another layer of excitement.
Yeah, sort of noise loop, sort of.
Yeah. This also kind of like an organ step, also from the JV. Breaks. Yeah, this is probably also coming from the JV, and I cut it up, as you can see.
Cool.
Also this weird, I don't know, effect from the JV that I just cut up, and Bob added just another layer to the break.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are also just effects that I got from that expansion card from the JV.
Yeah.
So just again to test things up.
What number JV is this? The JV 10?
JV 1010, yeah.
Yeah, I had a Roland JV
1080.
I don't know. I had one in the past. Roland JV 1010. But no, I didn't have a 1010. I had a different one. But you also could put these cards in. Yeah. Yeah, that used to be a thing, man. To get your hands on some of these old cards is great. You know?
Yeah, like, I love it. I mean, it's basically, you know, Roland Cloud for me, but then in a box.
Yeah.
And there's quite limited control. You can't really do much on the unit, but I kind of like that. You have to work with what you get.
Yeah. And
again, it's a way for me to quickly get sounds and just move on instead of just looking at a screen full of knobs and just tweaking endlessly.
Yeah, exactly. Just to have like some good sounds going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the rest, all the drums are basically just all MIDI, all samples. So I made this mid bass as a kind of a B part in the middle of the track, just from a sample.
If you hear this by itself, it's like a dwarf tune. Boom, here they come.
Just, you know, when this bass line or this mid synth rather is just gone for a bit, then introduce something else and then bring it back.
Yeah, that's a cool arrangement trick, actually, to have one sound take it over from the other sound. You just need two guys in there that actually, you know, one playing, then stops, and the other one comes. You know, it's a nice way to create more variation in your track or different. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, all the drums are either just samples from Ableton or some loops, and there's quite something here. Like, this is all drums, so when I have to mix this down, it's going to be interesting, right? Creating room for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think I have 3 claps here, or clap-like sounds. So we have the more like the body clap.
Yeah, it's like a rim shot.
Snap clap. It's actually a finger.
Yeah, snap.
Actually, like a finger snap, and then I think even a rim on the 2 and the 4. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you can see, no processing yet. So obviously this requires a bit of like EQing and making sure that it all works together.
Yeah.
This kind of drum layering can give a lot of character.
Yeah, it's super nice to see. I'm curious to where this track will go, man, and what label it's gonna be on and all that sort of stuff.
I think I might put it on my Bandcamp actually.
Oh, nice. That's also good to sometimes feed the Bandcamp with stuff, you know? Yeah, for the people just tuned in later, there's also like a free sample pack on his Bandcamp, which he made with the modular, which is cool to get for you guys. All keys in there, so you know what you're doing.
It's free.
And it's free. That's really important. And I'm gonna do a bit more plugging before we're gonna stop. You know, everybody, thanks for watching. If you want more free stuff, you can not only go to David's Bandcamp and check out this free thing. There's also sample packs on the Lessons in Life web shop, lessonsinlife.com. I do courses, beginners, intermediate, and advanced, all Ableton courses. And 5% of all the courses and all the revenue from the web shop goes to the Amazon forest, because we need to help the planet. And if you want to support this show and support what I do, please check out some of the preset packs. Some are free, but some ask a little bit of money. There's a Serum preset pack, there's a Kick preset pack, Lessons Alive preset pack, masterclasses. Check it out. And yes, Kobe, free sample packs. Old students here as well. And so David, always at the end, I ask people what's in store. So how about the gigs and the stuff, or anything you want to plug here before we quit?
Anything I want to plug? Ooh. No, I got some really cool things coming up, but I have to keep most of them a bit under the radar. As I said, I've been working on a really big project. I think the biggest project ever in my life, together with my trusted studio partner. That will be announced very soon. I just signed, of course, the UTS, the Up the Stuss EP is still available. It came out beginning of this month.
Yeah,
it's doing really well, but it's still available on the web shops if you're interested. But I just signed a new EP to a really cool label from the UK, and the gigs are slowly picking up again. So I just played it at Amsterdam Dance Event 2 weeks ago, and got the next one coming up now in Berlin in 2 weeks from now, and then also Birmingham, hopefully later this year or even beginning of next year. So things are slowly but steadily ramping up again.
Yeah, well, it's good you have the music ready, and I'm looking forward to all the cool things that are coming and all the music you're gonna share with everybody. Let's hope the whole thing's gonna stay good with COVID and stuff. Because now if one moment you're playing somewhere, other moment everything's cancelled. Like I wanted to go August. I contacted everybody like, hey, I'm gonna come a month to Holland, and I arranged some gigs. Like, it's been so long that I've been playing. I've been teaching a lot, and I would love to get on stage again sometime. And then everything got cancelled because of COVID. Like, fuck.
I hope we don't get into the situation again.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Let's fingers crossed. Yeah. So Alexander Diet Crisps, love the name. Thanks that you enjoyed it. We also enjoyed it very much. David, muchos gracias for being in the show.
My pleasure.
Next week I have Timmy P. He's back, our friend from the UK. So it's always nice to have this friendly guy. Do you know Timmy? Have you ever spoken to this guy? It's really nice. Makes good house music. Got lots of stuff coming, so he's going to be next week. After that, I don't know. It's a little bit of break time, but I've got a good list of people that I want to have on there, so I'm going to plan the stuff accordingly. And you also have to come back one day, David.
I will.
So as soon as next year, somewhere into 2022, we can go like, okay, how is Birmingham? How is this? Oh, I love what you released and this and that. It's nice. And then we can go dive in.
Hopefully this part of the screen will also be filled with other...
like a sick synths and modelers, whatever. Yeah. Some classic synths. Who knows? Cool. Yeah. All right, everybody at home, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Make sure to follow Lessons in Life and give us a thumbs up. And thanks for joining tonight. See you soon.